You could definitely be seated now. Shabbat Shalom. Last week, I was talking with a friend of mine who lives here in town, and after exchanging the usual, "So how are you?" How are you? She started saying all of this stuff that's going on. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's too much. And I said, yeah. Yeah. And her response, it's not so much what she said, but how she said it. She went like, "Rabbi?" And I said, "What?" Because I couldn't disagree with her. It is so much right now. You check your phone, you look at the news, you talk to friends or family, and you hear it, a lot of it. There's a global pandemic, a virus that's stalking us. Attacks on Jews, one synagogue vandalized after another, and it feels like no one else cares but us. And of course, the entrenched racism that stole black folks from Africa, enslaved them here, and now, so many years later, that same racism still exists to this very day, and there's so much more. So much more. She was expressing how overwhelmingly difficult it seems to fix all of these problems, that there are so many problems right now, and we have to fix all of them, and we do. And I kind of just acknowledged that, but what I think she wanted was for me to say something to make it all feel better. Because it feels like that it's not just there's a dark storm cloud hanging over the world right now. It kind of feels like the entire world is a dark storm cloud. Well, I know. But I kept thinking, who has time to seek out rays of sun while in this cloud? There's so much work to be done. How can I, or we, in good conscience, take time away from the fight, from all the fights that we have going on right now against disease, against hatred, against so much hatred? How can we take time away from all that good work that needs to be done? But then I thought about my friend Sultan. I met Sultan 7 years ago when I was living in LA. I was in rabbinical school, and we are both part of a kind of a young professionals Muslim-Jewish dialogue group. And even among his fellow Muslims, Sultan stood out, not just because he was over 6 feet tall, and not just because he was born American and born Muslim and black. Sultan stood out because of his soul. He's what in Hebrew we would call adin. He's gentle. He's a gentle man, and he listens so well. When he listens to you, he's just trying to hear you. He's not listening so that he's waiting, really, so that he can talk. He really listens. And he's smart. God, he's smart. Sultan graduated from MIT. He's a documentary filmmaker, actually. He's shown at Sundance. And right now he's working on his PhD at USC. And when he's not in school, or doing all the other wonderful things he does, he is a bridge builder. Sultan is a bridge builder. He works to build peace between communities that historically don't get along. He de-escalates. He's basically Aaron from the Torah. 3 weeks ago, Sultan had a Facebook Live going. He was mediating between police and protesters in Santa Monica after the murder of George Floyd. And I watched Sultan in real time do what he does best. Because Sultan, this 6 foot, really over 6 foot, born American, born Muslim, black man, he believes in waging love, in waging peace, not war. The protesters and the police, they were becoming more and more agitated. You could see it in the video. And you see Sultan dashing back and forth between all these different parties, all these different groups. He's familiar to all sides. Everybody knew him there. He was trying to de-escalate the situation because he knows what happens if this kind of situation gets to play out. And you can watch him pleading with everybody there, pleading with the protesters, pleading with the police to just listen, to work with him, to de-escalate this situation and disperse the crowd peacefully. And you watch him get arrested, and then the videos just stop coming. And the rest of the day, no one can find him. The jail says they have no record of him. Sultan resurfaces a day later. He had been detained in an airport hangar. He was handcuffed for hours with hundreds of others in a very small space. He probably had a sprained ankle from where he was shot with a rubber bullet. His voice was hoarse with tear gas. As he was explaining the horrific treatment he endured during his detention, he talked about being released at 4 a.m. on the side of the road, no wallet, no phone, no keys. But the worst part, Sultan says, the worst part was being handcuffed and being arrested. He's one of the few men in his family to have never been arrested, he says, and it's a point of pride with him. Sultan was a good kid, and he's a good man. He's adin. He's strong, and he's gentle. And he was arrested, and they treated him like a looter, which is a racist assumption and kind of underlines the whole thing. Sultan had every reason to be mad, to be angry at the situation that got him there and the situation he had been in, the endemic racism that he and we must fight against. But was Sultan mad? Absolutely. Absolutely he was mad. Of course he was mad. And Sultan has not stopped his work now in educating and mediating and fighting to end racism that taints all of us. Of course he's mad. But I want to tell you about his latest project, what he's been working on for the past couple days. It is a series of healing events, he calls them, full of music and dancing. He says it's dancing with holographs of my ancestors, and that is what he's doing. He literally dances, and it's actually quite beautiful, with holographs of his ancestors. It's joyous to watch. We need to stop focusing on death, Sultan says, and understand that it is about life, about Black people being able to live their best lives, and that means love, he says. Hashtag Black Lives Matter too. Hashtag wage love. Sultan knows that we live in a broken world, and our broken world needs to be fought for. And sometimes you feel angry. You need to feel angry. Sometimes you have to get mad. But you can't only be angry. You have to take the time to dance and to love and to celebrate and feel joy, to laugh and smile along with the tears. That was Korach's big mistake. We read this week, Korach led a rebellion against Moses and Aaron. Korach was consumed with anger. There was no end to his anger. And it wasn't even that he was wrong, per se, to be angry about what he was angry about, but it's that he refused to see, the Torah says, alongside his anger, the beauty of the world that he was being offered. He couldn't make room for beauty and joy and love alongside his grievances. When I look at the world around me, I see a world that is struggling with a virus that's getting worse, with anti-Semitism that is getting worse, with racism and all sorts of hatred that just won't die. And it makes me mad. And I think there's so much work to be done. Doesn't any time that I take to do anything else, to think about anything else, take away from these very important and serious issues, this very important and serious work? Sultan and the Torah would say no, that we must fight the good fight, yes, and still celebrate and love and find joy and beauty and goodness. As hard as it can be to see them sometimes, these things do still exist. They're in your life right now. Think of them. It might be hard to recall them, but you have to, or you'll end up like Korach, whose rebellion might have been true, and his rebellion might have been just even, but he could only see anger and who was swallowed up by that darkness. And in this way, finding joy and love and beauty, recognizing them and celebrating them, they are as much a part of the fight to make this world better as all of our other efforts. Joy and love and beauty and happiness as their own way of fighting. The war that embroils us all has many fronts: disease, anti-Semitism, racism, hatred after hatred. And we each have to do our part to combat each of those. And while we do so, we have to remember to wage love too. Shabbat Shalom.